Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Shirley shook her head. No, let's not do that. I want to marry you. Zacharias leaned down and nibbled her neck. I can't wait to marry you and make you my wife. Shirley spun around and looked deep into his eyes, which were as calm as the sea. His eyes accepted everything that she was, and they were filled with love and enchantment. Zacharias planted a kiss on her forehead, filling her with satisfaction. Meanwhile, after Richard informed everyone else of the wedding, he gave Arthur a call. He was always abroad, and both of their schedules were full, so it wasn't easy for them to meet often. Hey Artie, how are you? I'm good. Are you calling to inform me of the good news, Richard? My daughter is getting married in 2 weeks, and I would like to invite you to the wedding. I'm sorry, Richard. The vice president of Laukreist is coming in a few days, and I can't leave because I'll be taking him around. May I ask that my son attended in my stead? Once our discussion is over, I'll come over right away, Arthur said, sounding apologetic. Richard laughed heartily. That's fine. You don't have to feel apologetic. We can meet up any time. It's been a while since I saw your son, and this will be a good opportunity to meet him again. I'll make sure he arrives on time. Once I'm finished with work, I'll come and meet you immediately for some drinks. Don't forget to bring your wife along, all right? I haven't seen her for such a long time as well. Sure. It's time we meet and have a good catch-up. Arthur agreed with a laugh. The good friends chatted on the phone for about 15 minutes. Shortly after, in the faraway Weiss estate located in Flor, someone received a call from the other side of the world. A certain young master on vacation there answered the phone. Hi, Dad. Attend the Lloyd family's wedding on my behalf. Who's getting married? Richard's daughter is getting married in 2 weeks. Go over right away and don't be late. Your mother and I will join you afterward. I got it. I'll head over ahead of time, Dad. A yacht stood still in the middle of the sea. Laying on the deck was a man in a white shirt, sunnies, and casual beach shorts. The sunlight poured over his sculptured face and fair skin, which gave him a regal glow. Head back to the port, he instructed the bodyguard on duty. Then, he rose to his feet, standing tall at 6 feet 2. The first 3 buttons on his shirt were casually left unbuttoned, which unintentionally revealed his chest muscles, and his long legs were especially toned and strong. After holding the reins of Weiss Empire for 3 years, he had developed a strong and dominant aura, and every move he made was suave and elegant. The young master of the Weiss family, Ezekiel Weiss, was the only son in his family and had grown up to be a muscular hunk. At the age of 27, he was at his peak, bright and blazing like the sun at 10 o'clock a.m. The next day, a private jet flew into Zaravia's airspace. The cabin crew on board carefully attended to the young master. There were quite a few admirers among them, and even though they tried to display their charm, no one could catch the attention of the young master on the leather seat. It was a long-haul flight, but their chances were limited. If they were lucky enough to grab his attention, they could have a share of his wealth and wouldn't have to worry about their livelihood anymore, even if they couldn't marry him. In addition, anyone would be willing to date such a man for free. Reaching out, Ezekiel picked up his coffee. The thought of returning to his mother's home country and meeting his grandparents delighted him and filled him with anticipation. He had a lot of affection for this country, and it felt like going home. After 28 hours of flying and traveling around half the globe with his private jet, he finally landed safely. His bodyguard deftly grabbed his luggage and put a warm coat on him the moment he left the airport. His car could be transported all over the world, so 4 dashing SUVs drove over in a row. While Ezekiel was standing still and waiting, he felt a dark shadow lunging at him all of a sudden, which was followed by a girl's surprised yelp. Out of reflex, he extended his hands and caught the girl who was falling into his arms in a parabola. Her face crashed into his chest strongly, and her slender arms clung to his waist. In response, he hugged the girl who had fallen into his embrace. Ezekiel was stunned, and his bodyguard hadn't realized what was happening yet, but some girl was hugging his young master tightly. On the other hand, the girl hadn't done this on purpose, she was running away from several people. Right after she left the airport, she ran too fast and tripped over her own feet. As she stumbled, she bumped right into the man waiting at the airport entrance and hugged him to break her fall. "I'm sorry, sir. It's my fault." Wearing a mask, the girl had covered herself so well that only her eyes could be seen. In a black shirt and black pants, only her bright, charming eyes akin to sparkling stars were exposed. However, one could easily tell that she had just cried. Ezekiel couldn't help but be stunned by those eyes. Never had he seen such sad eyes before, which inexplicably evoked his pity. "She's over there." With a cry of surprise, a group of people rushed out of the airport. All of them were young girls, and each held their cell phones in their hands, aiming and taking pictures of the figure running away. Bewildered, Ezekiel turned his head in that direction, and his bodyguard to protect him, asking in concern, "Are you okay, Mr. Weiss?" "I'm fine," Ezekiel answered, his eyes following the black figure. He watched as she fled in panic and looked backward in a fluster as though she was looking for something. Finally, she climbed into a black MPV, but the group of girls surrounded the car and continued filming. Looking away, Ezekiel suddenly felt something on his chest and reached into his lapel to feel around. To his surprise, he found a gemstone. With a frown, he examined it and thought that it was real. When he held it in his hand, it exuded a cool sensation. Scrutinizing it under the sunlight, he realized that it was indeed a genuine gemstone that had fallen off something. Does this belong to the girl earlier? Holding the gemstone in his palm, he recalled that pair of eyes and smirked as though something interesting was about to happen. "Let's get into the car, Mr. Weiss." The bodyguard had already opened the door and was waiting for him. Without further ado, Ezekiel climbed into the car and saw the overreacting girls surrounding the black MPV. Judging from their fervent reaction, he reckoned that the girl who bumped into him earlier was probably a trending celebrity. Meanwhile, the girl in the car didn't feel idolized when she looked at her fervent fans. Instead, she felt suffocated. Her manager couldn't stop herself from berating the girl, asking, "Why did you return to the country in secret? You didn't even inform me about it, and you're still shooting a commercial. Don't you know that the compensation is 3 times more, my dear lady?" Clutching her manager's hand, she asked miserably, "Sarah, tell me if it's true that they are dating each other. Are the pictures on the internet real?" Glancing at her, Sarah said calmly, "You probably know the answer. Why even bother asking?" As the girl bit her red lips, the tears that welled up in her eyes broke free and streamed down her pretty face. Despite flying for hours and the tiredness apparent on her face, it didn't affect her natural beauty but added a touch of delicate attractiveness instead. "Don't get mad over such a person. It's not worth it. Isn't it great to be pretty and single? You're now an A-lister, and you can get any kind of man that you want." Sarah comforted her. Furthermore, Catalina Martin comes from a wealthy family with a strong backer, making her a typical product of nepotism. How can you compete with her? Also, you snagged her commercial last time, remember? It's not surprising that she's after your boyfriend now. Is this a reason to betray me? After speaking, Harmony Mayo bit her lip and gritted her teeth, hissing, "I must find a man 10 times better than him and make him realize that I'm not too shabby at all. That's the way to go. That's how you should think," Sarah praised. A second later, she realized that the necklace around Harmony's neck had an empty bracket, and the diamond on it was missing. "Where's the diamond on your necklace?" she asked worriedly. Harmony lowered her head and took a look, and her mind went into shock. "Where's the diamond?" "That diamond belongs to the company that hired me to be their ambassador, and it cost 15 million. They stared at each other blankly for a few seconds, and Harmony immediately said, "I still had it when I ran out of the airport and was holding it in my palm." "Did it? What happened, my dear girl? Check if it's somewhere on you." Sarah was on the brink of insanity. Immediately, Harmony removed her jacket and checked it. Upon closing her eyes, she said, "I must have accidentally dropped the diamond on the guy when I bumped into him earlier." Her gut feeling told her that it must have fallen on the guy when they came into contact. At the same time, Ezekiel's car rolled into the 7-star hotel owned by the Manson Group. After he arrived, he changed into sportswear and headed for the gym. After such a long flight, he was itching for an intense workout. The regality he exuded was strong, and right after he stepped into the gym, he became the center of attention. The ladies looked at him with a sparkle in their eyes as though he was a god, and a few of them were already secretly planning to approach him. Although he noticed the attention, he didn't think much of it since nothing was more interesting to him than the workout equipment. While he was working out, the women gulped at the sight of his bursts of strength, which was showing through his sportswear. His figure was considered top-notch, every body part was adequately proportioned, and he had the perfect figure in those women's eyes. "Hey, are you training alone?" "I'm by myself, too." "Let's work out together, shall we?" "No thanks." Lifting his head, Ezekiel spoke Zorvik flawlessly. He didn't have a foreign accent at all. In addition, his voice was deep and attractive. "It's boring to be alone." "Why not let me accompany you?" the girl said, continuing to pester him. She didn't want to let the other girls have any opportunity since she thought that she was the prettiest girl with the best figure in the room. When she blocked the fitness equipment that he needed, he furrowed his brows and said coldly, "Please move aside." Stepping aside unwillingly, she flipped her long hair and said, "Shall we grab a cup of coffee together later?" "My treat." However, Ezekiel turned her down again. "No thanks." He was polite, but at the same time, his tone was aloof, sending an unfriendly and unapproachable signal to strangers. Even though this girl already noticed that he was uninterested, she refused to give up. "Hey, why don't you give me your number? When you're available, let's." "Johnson's," Ezekiel shouted at the door. Soon, 2 brawny bodyguards carrying a murderous air around them burst in and stood beside him, blocking anyone who wanted to approach him. It wasn't the first or second time that Ezekiel needed bodyguards in the gym. He just wanted to exercise, but some ignorant girls would always pester him. As such, he had to call for his bodyguards. They'd protect him from the girls who tried to strike up a conversation with him. This girl blushed at the sight of the bodyguards and stepped back in embarrassment before picking up her towel awkwardly and leaving. The other girls who wanted to strike up a conversation with him dropped the idea as well. Nevertheless, they wondered curiously who this man could be and why he brought bodyguards with him to the gym. No matter who he was, this man gave a sense of regality on sight, so he must be some rich man's son. Unfortunately, they didn't have a chance to get to know him. At the airport, Sarah finally found a connection after using all her means, and she checked the surveillance footage at the airport entrance. If the lost diamond couldn't be found, not only would her company go bankrupt after compensation, but all the celebrities that she had nurtured would be thrown under the bus as well. Sarah went to the surveillance room and watched how her talent, Harmony, stumbled into a man's embrace. After their brief encounter, Harmony ran away when her fans chased after her. In the surveillance, the man lowered his head and found something. A few seconds later, he was seen holding a gemstone in his hand as he examined it. "That's the gemstone my talent lost. I finally found it." "So, this gentleman found it." Sarah breathed in relief. Everything was easier since the stone was found. Now, all she had to do was ask the man in the surveillance footage to return the gemstone. Armed with this evidence, she was confident she could retrieve the gemstone. The only snag was that she had no clue how to track down the man. After seeking help from various contacts, she eventually ended up back at the police station. Even though she didn't officially file a report, the police assisted her in obtaining information about the man. When Sarah got the address of the hotel that he checked into, she mumbled, "Ezekiel Weiss, a guest at Presidential Suite 8888. Looks like he's a big shot. How can we get back the diamond?" In the apartment, the girl on the couch was holding an iPad. As she looked at the pictures of a couple holding hands and kissing, tears flowed down her face uncontrollably. The man in the pictures was her boyfriend since she joined acting school. They had worked hard together, keeping their relationship a secret. She thought that once she had earned enough, she could hold his hand on stage and publicly announce their relationship. After clinching the Best Actress award at the Golden Rose Award and seeing her career soar, she discovered her boyfriend was secretly dating a wealthy celebrity. He was even caught in an intimate act with the other girl in a parking lot by the paparazzi. In the midst of filming an advertisement abroad, she hastily returned home without weighing the consequences. Unfortunately, trouble didn't come alone, and she even misplaced the gemstone used during the shoot. The cell phone next to Harmony rang, and she quickly glanced at it. Upon seeing that it was a call from her manager, she hurriedly picked it up. "Hello? Did you find it, Sarah?" "I did. It fell onto the clothes of the man you accidentally bumped into. I've got the hotel address where he's staying. You should swing by tonight and retrieve the gemstone from him." "It just doesn't feel right if I go," Sarah said. "Okay, I'll look for him at his hotel," Harmony replied. After the call, her cell phone rang again. It was an unknown number, but she picked it up anyway. "Hello, who's calling?" "It's me, Harmony. I called to warn you to stay away from my boyfriend. Ruben and I are seeing each other now." The smugness and arrogance in Catalina's voice was obvious. Harmony's chest filled with anger, and she was at a loss for words to retort back at her. "Oh, here's another tidbit for you. Ruben actually made the first move to win me over, and it turns out he's my type, so we started dating naturally. Just thought it's fair play, considering you took my endorsement and all." Catalina added and hung up after laughing in glee. "Damn it," Harmony muttered, biting her lip and clenching her fists in frustration. 20 minutes later, Sarah returned and showed her the surveillance footage. "Look, this gentleman found the diamond. With this surveillance as evidence, I'm confident that he will return it." Harmony took a look at the man who found the diamond, feeling like she was in the dumps. "Do I have to approach him tonight to get it back?" "Miss Mayo, this is an urgent matter. You have no idea how I almost broke my legs running around and asking for favors because of this matter. No matter how bad you're feeling right now, you must pull your socks up and get back the gemstone." After telling her off, Sarah took another look at the man in the surveillance and exclaimed in surprise, "Wow, he's perfect to be a celebrity." She paused the video, and the man's handsomely sculptured face was on the screen. Even though the image was a little grainy, they could still tell that he was a stunning man. "Goodness, this is totally the face for a male lead. If I can get him to be a talent under my wing, I have nothing to worry about anymore," she exclaimed, her eyes glued on the screen. "Harmony, when you meet him tonight, can you do me a favor and check if he'd be interested in trying acting? I'm totally open to offering him a sweet deal." Sarah had already started planning to get the man under her wing. Turning to take a look at the man in the surveillance, Harmony nodded. "Sure, I'll ask him for you. Catalina rang me up earlier." "What did she say? Did she call to show off or protest?" Sarah asked. "She called to warn me to stay away from Ruben." After speaking, Harmony felt a sting at her nose. 5 years. We've been together for 5 whole years. I hate to say it, but his accomplishments don't quite measure up to yours. So, he's definitely looking for something that can boost him. In this industry, it's all about self-interest. If you can't give it to him, he'll get it from someone else, Sarah pointed out. Harmony closed her eyes, and tears welled up at the corners. No one would be thrilled about falling out of love, especially after a 5-year relationship. Suddenly, she found herself adrift, losing the purpose behind her hard work and feeling completely lost in life. It was like all her efforts had become meaningless. All right, stop brooding over this. The important thing now is to get back the gemstone. What's the point of wanting a man who doesn't treasure you? Sarah checked out the man on her screen again, the desire to contract him growing stronger with every passing second. Around 3 o'clock p.m., Ezekiel gave Jared a call, sharing that he was back in town. Jared, excited to hear the news, extended an invitation for dinner at his place. Since Ezekiel was representing his father, Arthur, he had to catch up not only with his friends but also with his father's social circle. Arthur had a tight-knit bond within a triangular relationship, and Ezekiel, being his son, naturally shared in those connections. Despite the unusual setup, they had managed to form strong friendships, and whenever they found themselves in the same city, they made it a point to meet up. At 8:00 p.m. in the 7-star hotel, Harmony walked up to the front desk and inquired, "Hey, I'm looking for a guest in room 8888. Could you please give him a call for me?" "I'm sorry, miss, but he's our most valued guest, and we wouldn't want to disturb him without a valid reason," the receptionist replied politely. "I lost something, and he happened to pick it up. Will you please make an exception?" Harmony pleased sincerely. "I'd love to assist, but it's the hotel policy," the receptionist declined with a friendly smile. She recalled the guest in room 8888, a charismatic and affluent gentleman. It surprised her how swiftly a woman had arrived looking for him. As part of the hotel staff, it was her responsibility to handle these unexpected visitors on his behalf. "May I ask if there's any other way where I can meet him?" Harmony asked. "I'm sorry. We can't disclose any information about our guests." "May I look for him, then?" "Sorry, but the floor with the presidential suite is restricted to hotel guests. You'll need an access card to get in." Harmony sighed and thanked the receptionist before returning to Sarah's side. "The hotel is pretty strict about guest privacy. They won't let me look for him, and he's in the presidential suite, which is off limits for us," Harmony explained. The breakup had really knocked the wind out of her sails. At that moment, Harmony abruptly spotted a man and jumped to her feet, her eyes widening like golf balls. Sarah also caught sight of the man and couldn't help but think, "Isn't that Ruben, Harmony's ex? Looks like he's staying in this hotel, too." Meanwhile, Harmony felt her heart in turmoil. She wished to call out to him, but he seemed on the verge of leaving. Suddenly, a thought hit Sarah, and she quickly caught up with him. She said, "Hey, Ruben. What a surprise. Are you staying here, too?" Guilt flashed past Ruben's face when he turned his head and saw that it was Sarah. "Hi, Sarah." However, he didn't notice that Harmony was also on the couch in the lobby. "Which floor are you staying on?" "I'm staying in room 8083. Could you get to the level where the presidential suite is?" "Yes." Sarah couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief at Ruben's response. Finally, she had a way to reach the upper floors. All they needed was to get to the level with the presidential suite and knock on that guest's door. However, when she turned around, Harmony was nowhere to be found. Sarah quickly said, "Ruben, you go up first. I'll find you in a bit." Ruben nodded. His status changed after being with Catalina. Since then, the company had assigned him a luxury watch advertisement, causing his worth and reputation to surge instantly. What's more, the suite he was at was also arranged by the advertising company to conduct business negotiations. Sarah hurriedly exited the hotel and immediately saw Harmony standing by the fountain, so she quickly caught up to the ladder. "Harmony, I have good news for you. Ruben is staying on the presidential suite floor. We can ask him to scan his access card and take you to find the guest in room 8888. I don't want to see him." Harmony shook her head, tears welling up uncontrollably. "Don't be stubborn. We haven't taken back the gemstone yet." Sarah urged, "What if that guy leaves tomorrow? How could we possibly find him then? If he goes to another country, we'll have no options left. Let's get the gemstone back before the advertising company finds out." Harmony took a deep breath. She loathed the man yet still had to ask for his help. In the meantime, four black SUVs assertively drove into the underground passage next to the flower bed. The man sitting in the car had just returned after having dinner at the Presgrave residence. "Let's go. There's no other way. We can only ask Ruben for help. There are no reporters to take you upstairs. It will only take 10 minutes. Sarah grabbed her phone as she spoke and called Ruben. Hey, Ruben. I need your help. Could you come to the lobby and take someone up to the presidential suite floor for me? Great. We'll wait for you. Sarah smiled and then forcefully dragged Harmony into the lobby. When Ruben came over from the elevator, he felt his heart skip a huge beat. Looking at the slender and beautiful figure under the light, he felt guilty yet helpless. While he loved Harmony, he had chosen to betray his love for his ambition and resources. Harmony, why are you here? He asked softly. Harmony, be good and go upstairs with Ruben, Sarah persuaded while gently pushing Harmony. However, Harmony remained unmoved, so Sarah could only threaten in a low voice, if we don't get that gemstone, we'll face bankruptcy. Hurry up. After taking a deep breath, Harmony turned to Ruben and said, please take me to the presidential suite floor. Thank you. Why do you want to go there? I have an appointment with that guest. She walked toward the direction of the elevator. Behind her, Ruben hurriedly caught up with Harmony, asking, who's the guest? She remained silent, and he scanned his access card in the elevator before pressing the button for the 88th floor. Harmony, tell me. Who did you make an appointment with? Since you abandoned me for a better opportunity, I can do the same to you. The client I have an appointment with tonight is my benefactor. Did you offer yourself to someone? Ruben clenched his fists in anger as though Harmony had initially belonged to him. On the other hand, she pushed aside her pride just to exact full retaliation against her betrayer. She smiled and nodded. Yes. I willingly offered myself to him. So, what? Why do you even care? Later, a ding was heard as the elevator arrived on their floor. As this was a 7-star hotel with top-notch elevators, it only took them seconds to reach their destination. As she was about to get out, he grabbed her hand. Annoyed, she quickly pulled away, scolding, don't touch me. You disgust me. He also knew he had no right to stop her, but deep down, he still loved her. He dated Catalina on a whim to get what he wanted but had no feelings for her. It was just for mutual benefit. Raising her head, Harmony searched for room 8888 and paid no attention to Ruben, who was instinctively trailing behind her. Stop following me. I don't need you to meddle in my business, she scoffed. Thinking about the video and photos of him and Catalina in the basement garage lot, she felt like her world had collapsed. The man she had loved for 5 years passionately kissing another woman in the garage was more devastating than being slapped several times. At this moment, Harmony stood at the door of room 8888 with Ruben keeping a close eye on her from behind. That resulted in her having no choice but to pretend that she was here to sell herself. Although she was afraid to knock on the door and had no idea what kind of person was inside, she felt like there was a force pushing her, compelling her to go through with this. Secretly taking a deep breath, she rang the doorbell. In the meantime, Ruben's fists were already clenched tightly. He was eager to find out who her benefactor was, curious about their appearance and status in the entertainment industry. At the same time, he couldn't help but imagine that the person might be an older or perhaps a wealthy yet ordinary-looking man. Either way, the idea of the woman he'd held dear for 5 years sharing that intimate moment for the first time was like a painful stab to his heart. Harmony's mind was in a mess because she knew the words she had just spoken to the scumbag on the phone had deeply hurt him. But what if the man inside opened the door and asked who she was? Wouldn't that expose her? Then, she would end up being nothing more than a joke. How she hoped the man inside the room wouldn't say anything when he opened the door. That way, they could at least pretend to know each other when she entered the door and prevent the scumbag from watching her make a fool of herself. On the other hand, Ezekiel had just returned to the hotel, taking off his coat and unbuttoning his shirt. Just as he was about to sit down for a glass of red wine and relax, he heard his doorbell ringing. Intrigued, he pondered who might be seeking him out at this hour and approached the door. When he looked through the peephole and saw a young woman standing outside, he nearly forgot he had a gemstone that he had found. It seemed like the owner had found him. A faint smile played on his lips, finding it quite interesting. The image of the tearful eyes that he saw at the airport flashed through his mind. There seemed to be a mysterious force tugging him, making him eager to know the story behind those teary eyes. So, he reached out and twisted the doorknob, swinging the door open. Outside the door, Harmony and Ruben stood in stunned silence for a few seconds. Her eyes widened as she realized she hadn't paid much attention to Ezekiel's appearance at the airport and wasn't in the mood to scrutinize the video closely. As a result, she wasn't expecting the man to look so breathtakingly handsome in person. Ruben was also stunned. He assumed that her benefactor would be an elderly or a wealthy person. Still, he never expected him to be a handsome young man with an impressive physique. "You're here." Ezekiel smiled. She blinked, feeling a sudden urge to retaliate even more against Ruben. Ignoring her pride, she impulsively pressed Ezekiel against the door frame. Her slender hands circled his neck as she stood on her tiptoes. Then, she directed her soft, red lips toward his sexy, thin ones and kissed him. Harmony's soft lips, carrying a hint of sweet fragrance, left an imprint on Ezekiel's slightly cool mouth. He also tensed up. His mind went blank for a few seconds, like someone overwhelmed by a forced kiss. "Harmony, how could you? I thought I betrayed you and still felt guilty about it, but I never expected that you had already hooked up with someone else. Shame on you." Ruben completely lost his composure, pointing at her and cursing. To him, she was the betrayer. She had hooked up with a handsome and wealthy man. Right then, he felt jealousy and anger surged within him. After Harmony let go of the man she had just kissed without consent, she turned to Ruben. "You're right. I've dealt with scumbags like you. You're not the only one who knows how to charm those social superiors. There are guys interested in me too, you know." Listening to their conversation, Ezekiel finally grasped the reason behind the teary eyes he had seen at the airport. It seemed like her boyfriend had betrayed her. Besides that, she had used him to retaliate against the scumbag. Since she forced him to play along with her, he could try to play the part. After all, he hadn't gotten enough of the kiss just now. Ezekiel suddenly wrapped his hand around Harmony's waist and pulled her closer. Following that, he held the back of her head, which was the same posture as before, and kissed her red lips. At the same time, he swept his gaze provocatively toward Ruben in the corridor. Watching the scene unfold, Ruben felt a pang in his heart. He had hoped to leave Catalina and rekindle things with Harmony once he made a name for himself in the entertainment industry. But now, it was clear that Harmony wasn't the innocent girl he thought she was, as she had already fallen for someone else. He cursed under his breath, "Damn it." "Very well, Harmony." Ruben gritted his teeth and cursed before storming away. Once he turned the corner, Harmony pushed the man away while panting slightly. Something had gone awry. This wasn't the story she had envisioned. How on earth did she end up kissing the guy? Ezekiel led her into his room and closed the door with a bang. The next moment, she had her back against the wall while the man stood before her with his arms crossed. His slender fingers brushed over his sexy, thin lips as he questioned, "You're the first woman who dared to take advantage of me." Feeling a bit uneasy about her unintentional offense, she quickly apologized, "I'm sorry, sir. Please accept my apology. I came here to retrieve the gemstone you found." Ezekiel squinted his eyes and sized Harmony up. While he didn't get to see her appearance at the airport, she was now standing openly under the light. She had an almost flawless and beautiful face, a pair of bright eyes, and a pair of inviting lips. Also, she had a graceful yet shapely figure. It seemed like the woman was perfectly aligned with his preferences, which was rare. She felt his scrutinizing gaze and felt her scalp tingling. While biting her red lips, she asked, "May I ask if you would be willing to return that gemstone to me?" "Yes. The gemstone is indeed with me." After Ezekiel finished speaking, he turned toward the couch and beckoned her. "Come over here, and let's properly discuss how to settle this matter." Harmony's beautiful eyes widened slightly, thinking, what does he mean by that? Will he not return it until I make some kind of payment? Don't tell me he wants. She swallowed nervously. Even though she had offended him earlier, the thought of offering herself hadn't crossed her mind. Looking around the luxurious room, she cautiously approached the couch. She looked at the man sitting there elegantly with his long, slender legs crossed together and breathed out slightly. "Sir, what will it take for you to return the gemstone to me?" Though Ezekiel had yet to decide what he wanted from Harmony, he did feel somewhat bored, so he took another wine glass from the rack and poured 2 glasses of red wine. "Why don't you have a drink with me first?" That made her feel even more nervous. She pondered, what does he want? Is he trying to get me drunk? I have low alcohol tolerance, sir. So, please go easy on me, Harmony said as she waved her hand. It's just half glass. You won't get drunk, Ezekiel replied, only wanting someone to share a drink with. His gaze landed on the woman on the couch, and he recalled the situation at the airport, so he asked, "Are you a celebrity?" She corrected, "No, I'm just an ordinary actress. My job is acting in films." He responded with a casual "oh." Following that, she glanced at the half-full glass of wine and quickly inquired, "So, does this mean I get the gemstone back if I finish this?" Ezekiel smirked, "Yes." Hearing that, Harmony immediately picked up the glass and downed it in 2 gulps. Afterward, she wiped her lips and remarked, "I'm done." His eyes widened slightly, wondering, does she know the wine she drank so casually costs $63,000 per bottle? She didn't even savor it properly. What a waste. However, she saw his expression and thought she hadn't drunk enough, so she quickly picked up the bottle of red wine and poured herself another glass. "If you're not satisfied, I can have another one." In her eyes, the man was only trying to tease her a little before giving her what she wanted, and if that were the case, she would appease him herself. Therefore, Harmony tilted her head back and finished her red wine. She let out a hiccup and asked with blushing cheeks, "Can you return the gem to me now?" Ezekiel was stunned for a moment, then couldn't help but chuckle. Pulling out a drawer, he grabbed the gem and placed it on the table. "Sure. Here." Harmony grabbed the gem and heaved a sigh of relief. She even kissed the gem before getting up and thanking the man. "Thank you. I won't bother you any longer." Once she finished speaking, she approached the door with hurried steps, about to leave. "Hey." Ezekiel couldn't help but call out to her. Although she heard him, she didn't stop. Instead, she pulled the door open and left. Ezekiel stood up, his figure resembling a prince as he stood under the lights. However, a man like him couldn't get this young lady to stay. If it had been another woman, she wouldn't have wanted to leave. When Harmony entered the elevator, her whole body relaxed, and she leaned against the elevator wall. Only then did she think about the feeling of being kissed just now, and her cheeks began to heat up. "Oh my gosh. I kissed him." Meanwhile, Sarah was waiting downstairs. When she saw Harmony approaching, she immediately went over. "My dear Miss Mayo, did you get the gem?" Harmony nodded and then took out the gem to show Sarah, who also patted her chest and shouted, "Hallelujah." With a stern expression, she added, "I'll contact the jewelry provider immediately and get them to restore it. After that, you head back immediately to film the advertisement." Knowing she was reckless to have run abroad for a man who was unworthy of her feelings and almost lost a gem worth $15 million, Harmony nodded. "Okay. I'll leave tonight." As for the incident where she kissed the man upstairs, she chose not to say a word. "By the way, did you meet that man? Did he say whether he was willing to become a celebrity under our label?" Sarah hadn't forgotten about that matter. Finding it funny, Harmony replied, "Sarah, look around and see which hotel you're at. It costs over $60,000 to book one night's stay here. Do you think a man like that would lack money and want to become a celebrity?" It was only then that Sarah realized that fact. "You're right. He must not lack money." After thinking about it, Harmony realized that not only did the man not lack money, but he was even exuding a noble, glamorous, and opulent temperament. Besides that, His smile was also very charming. Did Ruben cause trouble for you just now? Nope, but I've already moved on. Harmony got the chance to retaliate harshly against Ruben. She felt grateful for the mysterious man who helped her get back at Ruben. Cheer up. There are plenty of men out there. Once you've established yourself in this industry, it would be easy for you to snag a rich young man, Sarah comforted Harmony. On the other hand, Ezekiel sat in the room, looking at the empty wine glass. His mind was filled with images of the young woman just now, including her bright and lovely appearance. It was as though her laugh could automatically make his day. Rubbing his temples, Ezekiel wondered, what's this? Why am I suddenly attracted to that lady? Forget it. It's just a coincidence, and I won't see her again. Flintstone residence. Shirley was looking at the guest list while Zacharias had become even more swamped. That was because he not only had to work, but he also had to prepare for their upcoming wedding. Compared to him, all Shirley had to do was continue with her days and await the day she would become his bride. When she was about to fall asleep, she heard the sound of a car from outside and instantly woke up. She approached the French windows and saw the man's convoy. At that point, she was no longer drowsy and ran downstairs to greet him. The car's door opened, and Zacharias' handsome and charming figure appeared. In his hand was a bouquet of fresh flowers and a bag. Just as he pushed the door open, he immediately saw the pajama-clad young woman coming to greet him. It's already so late, but you still brought flowers. Shirley accepted the flowers with a smile, feeling happy inside. Once she took the flowers, Zacharias wrapped his arm around her waist and kissed her forehead. I'm sorry that I came home late again. Shirley raised her head to reply, it's okay. I can wait for you. Zacharias brought her to the couch and took out a set of jewelry from the bag. These are for you. Why did you buy these? Stop spending so much money on me. Though Shirley said that, she still smiled and happily opened the box, revealing a 3-piece set of beautifully designed jewelry that shimmered under the light. Do you like it? Zacharias asked. He had personally gone out to choose these. Nodding, Shirley replied, I do, but stop giving me presents like these. However, Zacharias wouldn't listen. Instead, he would give her these gifts every year. It's getting late. Let's head upstairs. Shirley held his hand. It was nearing dawn, and the man had plenty of things to do the next day, so she had to get him to rest earlier. Meanwhile, Zacharias noticed how eager she was and misunderstood her intentions. He let her lead him upstairs, and once they got to their bedroom, he immediately pushed her against the door. It seems like you miss me a lot. When Shirley raised her head and noticed the glint in his eyes, she couldn't help but chuckle. What are you thinking about? I just want you to rest earlier, not dash. The man cut off the rest of her words. Even though she denied it, her body was honest. Damn it. I admit that I want it, too. Even though they had a tight schedule to prepare for a royal wedding, that didn't stop everything from progressing in an organized manner. During the next half a month, Shirley had only one task: preparing herself to become a beautiful bride. She had high-end personalized wedding gowns and evening dresses, jewelry she could pick from, and best wishes from all parties. Besides that, Angela even hired professionals to educate her daughter so that she would become a very elegant lady at the wedding. That was because Shirley grew up in a graceless environment, and Angela didn't expect her daughter to marry the vice president. Therefore, Shirley must start attending etiquette lessons. During the 2-hour course, Shirley spaced out for nearly an hour because the etiquette teacher's tone was like a lullaby, almost lulling her to sleep several times. In addition, Zacharias didn't let her sleep well last night. That man seemed to have abnormally high stamina, which even she admired. Not only could he focus on dealing with work matters and wedding preparations in the morning, but he could also work out until late at night. Therefore, Shirley just happened to have the urge to doze off during her afternoon etiquette class. In the end, after she managed to force herself to finish her etiquette class, she had to attend an art appreciation course that her mother arranged for her as well. It felt like her mother saw her as a student about to take a college entrance exam and arranged whatever she saw fit into every second of her daughter's free time. While inside the car, Shirley couldn't stop herself from complaining to her man, but the man was also helpless in this situation. After all, that was his mother-in-law's arrangement, and it was inappropriate for him to interfere. Therefore, he could only comfort Shirley, telling her to escape every chance she got and leave his mother-in-law to him. Hearing that, Shirley cracked up. It seemed like the man had played truant quite often back in the day. Halfway through her art class, Shirley heard her phone ring. When she glanced at it, she almost screamed because her savior had arrived. It was a call from Willow. "Miss, excuse me, but I would like to take a leave of absence." "I have something very urgent to attend to," Shirley requested politely. The teacher deduced from Shirley's expression that this matter might be very urgent, so she nodded. "Go ahead, Miss Lloyd." Once Shirley was outside, she quickly answered the call. "Hey, Willow. Have you arrived?" "On my way. I'll wait for you." Willow's gentle voice came from the phone. The two had agreed to have afternoon tea together. After all, Willow had returned to the country ahead of schedule just to meet up with Shirley before the latter's wedding and have a girls' talk. At the cafe, Willow wore sweet, elegant attire. Her naturally elegant temperament was certainly not something that could be brought by clothing and makeup, but something she was born with. When Shirley sat down and saw the aromatic coffee on the table, she picked it up and took a sip. "I've been so exhausted for the last few days. My mom is afraid I'll embarrass her at my wedding, so she has arranged various courses for me. I can't help but wonder, am I that graceless?"
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.